PopCultureZone.com is an online shop focusing on hot new comics, including exclusive and incentive variants, CGC graded comics, and tons of other inventory, including pop culture toys and other collectibles, all at low and competitive prices. PopCultureZone.com ships all over the US. And if you are buying raw comics, they offer flat rate shipping of only $4.99. That's right, $4.99. Absolute craziness, right? And there's no taxes included, excluding New Jersey. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they hold a 100% positive feedback rating with over 8,000 completed transactions for this year alone. Make sure to check out the link to their website below, as well as their eBay link, so be sure to give them a follow there as well.
Chris, your segment is here. Props or flops? All right. Y'all know this. You upload any comic to Instagram that you have certain investment interest in. You'll use the hashtag props or flops. Make sure to tag Comic Book Cannon, Journos Comics, 360 Comics. Tell us why this book interests you. Tell us how much you paid for it, and tell us what you think long-term you're looking to do with it. Is that right, Chris?
Absolutely.
So if you don't have anything more to add, we're going to get right into our first props or flops.
Let's pull it up.
Hold on. Oh. I got scared. Josh's Comics 01. Thor God of Thunder. Tell us about this, Chris.
Thor God of Thunder. Well, let's hear what Josh had to
Oh my God. Yes, you're right. Thor God of Thunder, #1. First appearance of Old King Thor. First appearance of Gore's Black Berserkers. First mention of Gore. He found it at a South Jersey Con today, or I guess last week. Today for $2. New mint as well. Love Jason Aaron's run on Thor. Plus, this was a nice little key at a great price. Also, a preview of tomorrow's haul video. By the way, if you're not following Josh's Comics, the link is down below. Chris, tell us about this.
Yeah, well, I've been a little wet behind the ears in my hiatus, so I'm glad that I have all my market information today properly done for this segment. So, look, Josh bought this book for $2 in a high grade, near mint looking copy. There, even like, and remember, this is all about investing. I would have to give that a prop in that aspect, simply because you can, sell this book at least for $1 or $2 more. But buy it now listings are as low as $6 on eBay right now. They're flooded. They're all over, and people aren't snatching them up. Now we do have some perspective here, looking at 9.8 graded copies. Current 9.8 fair market value is sitting at about $60, where 1 year ago they were sitting at $133. That's a 55% decrease in value. Now, keep in mind, this isn't just specific to this book. The market is down. So it is what it is in terms of looking at 9.8 grades, but there's not a lot of attention on this book at all. We know that there was a lot of attention on this run because of Gore with the Thor Love and Thunder movie coming out last year. It didn't get well received, including for myself. I thought, they could have done a lot more with that movie, a lot more with Gore. 446 universal grades on the census. That's all grade, blue label grades, right? So from a book from this era, probably with no less than 40 to 50,000 print run, probably even more than that. There's not a lot of people sending this book in to get graded. It's not, it's scarce, it's rare. There's only 4, so let me go pay. No, it's the opposite. I don't see this book as an investment at all, in my humble opinion. Now, let me add context to that. When we look at investing, I want to break down 4 key specific ways to invest. All right. 1, long-term flip. 2, long-term hold. Short-term flip is 1. 2, long-term flip. 3 long-term hold, and the last one, waiting on spec hype. So let me break down what that means, and I'm gonna bring it back to this book. Short-term flip means you buy a book with the intent to flip it really soon. So you think about somebody that goes out and buys in bulk, and they could get something on like for wholesale, like 25 cents a comic or less. Okay. Or you think about somebody that goes and pre-orders a bunch of books or grabs 5 copies of a new release off the shelf, thinking that they're going to be able to short-term flip it like on eBay, whatnot, etc. Now there might be some spec hype behind that, but that's still its own category. Okay. Long-term flip means you're buying it right now at whatever price. It might not even be whole price. You might be paying retail price for it, current fair market value, but you have the intent to flip it down the road, probably a year or so, right? 1 year, 2 years. Okay. Long-term hold means you care about the investment value. You're thinking about what you're paying for it, but you want to hold on to that book for 5, 10 plus years. You might even want to pass it down to your kids, grandkids, but you still care about the investment value. All right. Now, let's talk about waiting on spec hype. Waiting on spec hype is different than simply short-term flip, because waiting on spec hype could mean that there's kind of a long-term rationale in that. Because for me, I look at books like I was talking about Nova. I was making videos on my channel saying, invest in Nova, #1. First appearance of Richard Rider, Nova. Way before anybody even knew anything about Nova coming to the MCU. I've been talking about Quasar for years. That's basically me caring about spec hype, but not when we get an announcement or get a trailer or get a casting, which is what drives the FOMO, which is what drives these books up, like this run, like issue #3, the first appearance of Gore, et cetera, et cetera. And then they crash back down after the movie is released and we forget about it and we move on to the next thing. So again, I break all those down because I ask you all this. What does this book have? To me, if you were buying it for the short-term flip, you missed out. If you're buying it for the long-term flip, you missed out, because both of those have to do with that other category, specifically movie spec. And you missed that boat. I'm going to give a spoiler if you haven't seen the movie, so mute it, but Gore is dead. You know, one and done. No, it's not doing anything. The only category that I would look at this book for an investment would be that long-term hold. But I just, even then, 10 years from now, I mean, I don't see this book being something that would be anything really that would sell for I don't know, more than $10. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. So I still give it props simply because he could probably sell it right now and make $1 or $2. But I really don't think there's much investment value there at all. And Joe, love to hear your thoughts on this, but I'm glad that I did my research, because this is that same era that I was talking about with those books last week, where there is a lot of that random reboots and these #1s that just, there's nothing there. But obviously those books did have certain value. So I would love to hear your opinion on this, because I don't think this book fits in those same categories as those, Captain Marvel #1s. But hey, I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, you started off by saying you bought it for $2. You bought it for, half or less of FMV. I priced this book at $5. That's how I sell it. So sure, he's buying it. He could buy it and flip it for a couple bucks. Pretty, negligible amount of money. Not worth really the effort there. Where I think we differ is that I think this book has a little bit more, not a ton more. I don't think this book will ever be a $50 book or a $40 book even, or probably even a $30 book. But I could see this book being over $10, maybe up to $20 at some point, because of a couple things. One, it's a number one. There's a lot of collectors that grab number ones. Two, Jason Aaron, super popular writer. I have a friend who collects literally every Jason Aaron written book. And there are probably a lot of people out there that really, really like Jason Aaron. And this is certainly one of them. But the thing that I think has the most long-term value is that, not just that this is a really good read, this run, but it introduces Null as well. So people are probably going to be collecting this run who are fans of Null because it introduces the character, not in full, doesn't have a full appearance until Donny Cates Venom #3, but the Necrosword is introduced.
I was going to say, is that because of the sword?
And I don't know if there's a Null cameo or if he's just mentioned. I think he's just mentioned in this. But the character of Null has a connection to Gore, who does first appear in this. So I think as far as long-term value, that's where the long-term value comes from. But again, like I was saying before, I don't think this is ever going to be a $30, $40, $50 book. It might not even get up to $20, $25, but I do think it will slowly creep up in price over time. It might even have a little spike if we ever do see Null on the big screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna. This is tough because again, what we get these books. These people that send these books in, they submit for investment purposes only. Now, Josh says he just wants it for his PC. That it's a props all day, no doubt about that. Like you got it for $2 in mint condition. It's props, no doubt about that. But what we ask for this is, we probably need to Chris. We probably need to revise that that image that we have because we don't mention for investment purposes. It's really hard. There's a lot with the Null thing in there. I'm going to give it a slight props because with the teases of Null in there, that's why, because Null still, he's a villain. We all know how that goes, especially with Gore. But I think that there is still potential there. Null is it's quiet now with Null. I haven't been reading Venom, so I think it's quiet now with Null. But we're going to see more of him. I mean, we may see something about him in Venom 3. Who knows? Tying into the MCU. So if that's the case, this thing will heat up for sure. I'm going to...
Tony!
By the way, don't apologize. You messed up at all.
No way.
Oh, you're not messing up.
Keep sending those types of books in. Again, that's how we look at it through this segment. That's the way we look at it. So
and that's the best kind of books are books that are questionable. If you're hey, I bought this AF-15 for 10% under fair market value. Obviously, we're giving that props. If you're like, hey, I spent $40 on this X-Force #1, obviously that is going to be a flop. Yeah. But these books that are kind of borderline, that have some little bit of potential that we can pick out of here, and especially books that we're going to disagree on, those are probably the best ones because it gets the discussion going.
It gets the yes, exactly.
Even if you didn't buy it to flip or to as this big investment, we can still look at it and analyze it in that way. And we'll always, even though the segment is so focused on investment reasons, we still usually give our opinions. Like, man, if you love the book, I would buy it for $2 props all day, keep it in my collection, all that. So yeah, don't apologize, and sending stuff like this in gives us more variety.
Absolutely. And speaking of, we have more variety to show off in Raising Elm's submission from a few weeks ago, because we did not do props or flops. We did do Fresh from the Comic Shop. By the way, just another reminder here, guys, we are taking the best comment from tonight. You're going to be able to win Dazzler 1 and Silver Surfer #1. But as we all know, you guys completely win because you get the Comic Book Canon discount card. Just bring that, which the link is down below. All you need to do is print it out and take it to your shop. Super excited about that. All right. So Chris, if you'll allow me, please, I would like to read the whole post with the original post, because as we know, Justin, aka Raising Elm, does a fantastic job of Fresh from the Comic Shop. Very creative, tugs at our heartstrings, has a unique book. Sometimes he has unique books, but 2 out of 3 he is super strong at. And I'm going to read that right now. This is the original submission. Howdy, comic fan. Before Thor: Love and Thunder came to theaters last year, I managed to grab the sweet copy of Journey into Mystery Annual #1 for $188. Remember that for props and flops, people. It's even fresher now that it has just returned from CGC with a grade of 4.5 with off-white pages. Super stoked to have this first appearance of Zeus and Hercules in there. In the PC, with this week's submission, I felt that I needed to recreate the cover art from the Incredible Hercules issue 126, not only because it's an awesome cover, but as a message to all the dear friends I've made in this community. You see, over the past few months, I have spoken with most of you that have fallen on hard times, either financially, with relationships, or health. Some of y'all may not know that I had a battle with cancer about a decade ago in life. We will all face these trials, but like the mighty Hercules, we must find the strength to break those chains. There's freedom beyond the rings that hold us down. There's freedom beyond the things that hold us down. Much love, comic fan. I just felt it was important again to read that. Is well said, well composed shot as we talk about. But here it is now in the ring of props or flops, and it doesn't hold. We don't hold it to the same standards as we do for Fresh from the Comic Shop. So Christopher, boom.
All right, guys. I mean, solid Silver Age first appearance. He got it in a 4.5, so of course we're looking at 4.5 fair market values here. Currently, this book is sitting at about a $333 fair market value, and CGC 4.5 or graded 4.5. 1 year ago, though, it was sitting at $632. That's a 47% decrease in value. And again, similar to that God of Thunder book, what was going on about a year ago? A certain movie called Thor: Love and Thunder. So, I mean, obviously this book is a flops, right? Because it's like dropped half its value. No, that's not how it works. Let's look at this. Context, people, context. First off, we know that Raising Elm only paid $188. So that means if he sold it today, if you consider fees, you know what, $35 to get it graded, shipping, all that, you know, he still paid less than what he could sell it for today, most likely. All right. But 3 years ago, this book was actually hitting a fair market value right around what he said he paid for it, about $183. He said he paid $188. So he's got 3 years of a fair market value on him, even with the market dipping the way that it has. So what does that mean? Props or flops? Well, we got to look at a couple of things. Remember, people, comic books aren't just valuable because of movies.
Mm-hmm.
You got an amazing Silver Age key here. All right. It's going to be something that's going to drive the value of this book for years to come. And when we talk about the COVID market, one thing that I always like to look at, pre-COVID, that 3 years ago mark, that 183 mark was right around or right before when COVID hit. And if you follow the trend before that, this book was on an upward moving a fair market value. It was, what do you call it? That long-term hold, right? It was slowly increasing in value. COVID hits, it booms a little bit. Then we know the movie's coming out and we know Hercules is in it. Everything went crazy, including this book. And then, like most stuff does that we FOMO out over, it tends to drop. And then you add that with the state of the economy and the market, and it's really hurting from where it was at its peak just about a year ago. But that doesn't mean that this book is a flops. And I am going to give this book a props because I'm going to look at it like this. He could sell it today, and most likely, you know, obviously the book's selling. I think there was 3 sold over the last couple of months in 4.5 that allow for that fair market value to sit at that 333. Some, you know, people are buying still. I don't necessarily see this book dropping a lot more over the next few months, even with the state of the market and the economy. I mean, maybe a little bit, who knows? But you got 2 things going for this book where if you're looking at for an investment reason, if Raising Elm was wanting to sell this book, we basically got like a cameo of Hercules in Thor: Love and Thunder. this character is going to be around a while, and maybe we're going to see him in something soon to where he has more of a prevalent role. I don't know. I think when that happens, it can get more of those people kind of FOMOing over wanting to get Hercules stuff again. But regardless, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, this book is going to continue to have that gradual long-term increase in value. And that's why I think for what he paid for it, Raising Elm has a solid investment. And I give this book props all day.
Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, he bought it for under FMV. He bought it for around the price that it was pre-comic boom, which I don't really see things falling much below that, with the exception of a very few books. And if you look at the charts and stuff, seems like things have kind of leveled out now for the most part. Silver Age, major key, really is. It I wouldn't quite call it blue chip, but it's a major key. Hercules has played a major role in the Avengers as a solo character, and honestly, probably would be more popular if it weren't for the fact that he's tied to a mythological storyline. I feel like that hinders characters a little bit. Thor himself, even, I think, would be a much more popular character if he weren't based on something else.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Silver Age, major key, decent grade, lower side of mid grade, whatever you want to call it, 4.5, acceptable grade. Props for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to say props as well. Even if he doesn't show his face again in the MCU, this is a major key. This is a Silver Age key of somebody who's been in the Avengers, somebody who's still around, somebody who's established in the Marvel universe. Universe. I think I said universe. What the fuck is that? That's good. But yeah, props all around for this, no doubt about that. There was nobody who said flops. Actually, I don't think anybody said flops at all tonight for either of our submissions. So this was a good week for props or flops. And Chris, we appreciate you doing the props or flops because you break it down in ways that we can't.
Yeah, man. Felt good. I'm glad I had the time to get it done.
So, any last words before you leave for dinner?
Yeah, nope. About to go start up a barbecue. I just saw that the Giants are tied. They're sucking this year, so I'm not going to put too much energy into that.
Listen, Louis Logix needs to chill out. He's a Mets fan and muck the Fets. Absolutely. So
yeah, I'm good. Thanks again. I'm glad I can continue to be more present here on the show. We'll try to do it again next week. I want everyone to just remember that I will be doing more and more videos, more new videos consistently on my channel. And I just want to remind everyone, and it's really interesting as I come back into this too, because, I'm trying to get a handle on the perspective of where I'm at now with comic books and with the industry. And although I'm not saying it's shifted 180 or 360 or anything, it's evolved. So I'm still trying to work through it because it's a very interesting time right now.
Yeah.
To be talking about comics. And, I take that into my channel and what we do here. And I'm just, for one example, and I'm probably going to do a video on this soon, but it's the idea of, this whole, and everyone does them. I did them. And they were some of my best videos often, 10 Marvel comics to invest in right now it's all that stuff. It's that to me, it's completely changed because we are the dynamic of how we collect, why we collect, and our purchasing decisions and how we spend our money. It's just, again, I think I said this a little bit last week. It's just, I think a lot of people are hitting their head against the wall, looking for a different result. And I look at it and I kind of have this dumbfounded smile on my face. It's just very interesting what people are doing in the comic book community right now. And it's going to be interesting how we look at it, how I'm going to look at it moving into these coming months, and with just everything going on When it comes to the MCU continuing to be strong and FOMO, people still FOMOing out, seeing James Gunn get the ball rolling for that. That just the evolution of floppy comics and how it's going to test like collectors that don't care about the movies. All these things, I think we're in a really interesting time right now, this really post-COVID economic struggle that we're in. And I think it's going to be exciting over this next year or two. Yeah.
Well said indeed. Chet's trying to pipe in here.
Your taste in comics is as bad as your fashion sense.
Nice. Thanks for the constructive feedback there, Chet.